Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good evening. It is 10 o'clock p.m. here in Calgary, Alberta, Thursday, March the 3rd. I'm glad to be here. This is Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is up to us. 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. Chat room is open, and I did pop the link in there to one of the articles that I want to kind of look at. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the profile of a pedophile and how to protect children from child sexual predators and whatnot. And so that's the topic for tonight. So yeah, I'm not a counselor or therapist, and I don't hold any certificates in those areas, and I'm just a private citizen paying to do my own blog talk shows, and just mainly to be another voice out here talking about child abuse, spreading the word on prevention and awareness, and standing up for child rights, speaking out against child abuse, and standing up for survivors. So you have to listen to all of my shows at your own discretion. Child abuse is a sensitive topic, right? So if you're not sure if it's going to bother you and you haven't heard a whole lot about abuse, then you need to turn the show off. You need to know what's good for you to listen to, and it is clearly your discretion because only you can make that choice for yourself. So you need to know what makes you uncomfortable and what might bother you. So if the topics of abuse bother you, then you need to turn the show off. And young people under the age of 18, you need to have permission to listen to my shows, and that's because I believe in protecting children at all times. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and we stand up to protect children's lives. That's what we're doing. We're volunteers, and we're standing up to try to protect children's lives, to try to save children's lives. So, you learn how to keep yourself safe online. If you're a young person listening to this and, you have someone listen to it with you, a parent, guardian, caregiver, somebody, who's older, like an adult who can help you make a decision whether or not this is, age appropriate for you, because there's a lot of adult content on my shows. So, and I just think that children have the right to be protected at all times. And so learn how to keep yourself safe. Type into your browser internet safety, online safety for children, things like this. That'll bring you to websites that will give you some good tips on how to keep yourself safe online. Be very, very careful. That's what we're talking about here tonight. Profile of a pedophile, how to protect a child from a child sexual predator, from a child sexual assault. It's so important. Oh my God, I'm telling you. I was almost kidnapped 5 times when I was younger, all under the age of 16, and most of it when I was really young. So 5 times. I was very lucky. I had people around me that were paying attention and were watching and were able to get me away from these people, from these men who were trying to walk off with me 5 times. One time I actually, a little friend and myself ran, and we got ourselves some help by kicking on on a door. We went running up to a house and kicked on the front door. We got ourselves to safety. But the thing is you don't want that to happen to you. And I was just very, some people would say lucky, some people would say blessed, that people were watching out for me and that I was able to get away from these people. You bet I was, because I know what these kids are going through out here who are being, sexually assaulted by a child sexual predator. This is absolutely horrific. I was sexually assaulted by a family member. So, that's a little different, but it's just as horrific, and it never should happen. And you need to learn how to protect yourself, right? So if you're a young person listening to this show, you make sure that you get permission to listen to my show, and then you learn how to protect yourself online and out on the street and everywhere that you go, right? So thanks, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate it. Get right into this topic here. I found this article. This is a great article. I really wanted to look into this because last night on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, I had a great opportunity to speak with Keith Smith. And Keith Smith, he's the author of Men in My Town, and he is a survivor of a stranger abduction, child sexual assault by a stranger, a recidivist pedophile who had already been previously arrested and done time for sexually assaulting children, who had gotten out of prison, had only been out of prison for a short time, and then Keith Smith happened to be on his way home at the age of 14 and happened to cross this guy's path, and he lived to tell his story. So that was on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio last night. It was a great, it's just an eye-opener. It's just like so good to hear from survivors out there who are speaking out and saying, hey, you don't want this to happen to you. Parents, protect your children. And he's doing so well, and really it's such a awesome thing to see that he's doing so well, and I'm so happy he's alive, because so many children are not, they're kidnapped, and Keith was telling us last night that children, or anyone who is kidnapped or abducted and is by a sexual predator, if they're held captive for 3 hours or more, then it just reduces their chances of of making it out alive by 50%. So, he got away. I mean, and he lived to tell his story. So I hope that you will check out Keith Smith's website, and that's mininmytown.com. And you can, it's at mininmytown.wordpress.com. Sorry about that. mininmytown.wordpress.com. And you can get all of his information there. And he's an author, and he's an advocate, and he's done a whole lot of work to try to change the laws and to try to change the situation to make this world a safer place for children, right? So awesome. So this particular article comes from www.sweet101.com. It's called The Profile of a Pedophile. And it was posted by Lynn Burress, Burress, on April 14th, 2008, but the information is still good. Identifying characteristics and behaviors of child molesters. It says serial child molesters and pedophiles come from all walks of life and do not discriminate by race, gender, social class, or age when seeking to sexually abusing children. So this is what they're talking about here. And it's just so true. Anybody can be an abuser. Anybody can be child sexual molester. Anybody can be an abuser, adults, even children. Anybody can be an abuser if they choose to abuse, right? If they choose to do what they're doing, right? It's absolutely harsh because I can't, in my mind fathom why anybody would want to hurt a child or would want to sexually use a child. I don't understand. I don't even know why adults want to hurt other adults. I grew up in a home full of domestic violence and abuse, as everybody knows who listens to my shows. I never could understand that because it hurts, I knew myself the abuse that I was suffering was hurting me, so I could pretty much tell that the abuse that my mom was suffering was hurting her, and the abuse that my dad was suffering from my mom getting back at him was hurting him. So, my family was everybody was just hurting each other. My family was absolutely horrific. But I've never understood why people do this sort of type of thing, right? I just think people should treat people decently, and if they do accidentally or, even on purpose hurt someone else, then they should apologize and make it right and never do it again, right? Sadly enough, people just don't care. Many times they really don't care, and that's why we have the issues of child abuse. That's why we have the issues of domestic violence, because people do not want to take responsibility for their actions and do not want to change. So abusers just want to keep on abusing. Child sexual predators just want to keep on doing what they're doing, sexually using children in any way, whatever they decide to do. And, bullies on the playground decide that they're just going to continue to bully other children. It's a choice. It's a choice people make, and it makes me really sad that people would choose to do that. It says, parents often imagine a child molester being an ugly old man dressed in a trench coat, hiding behind bushes at a dark night, just waiting for the right moment to kidnap or molest children. However, child molesters come from all walks of life and do not discriminate by race, gender, social class, or age. It is a widespread misconception that child molesters are complete strangers to their victims, and statistics of child sexual abuse confirms that 90% of sexual abuse victims know their abusers. Now, this is a statistic that is just out there, and it's everywhere. I mean, pretty much everywhere you look when you're looking for stats, that's the stats, that's the facts, that's the numbers compiled by all the research and information that they've gathered. Is 90% of child sexual victims know their abusers. So Keith Smith was mentioning on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio last night that 30% would be a family member, somebody in the immediate family, whether it's a parent or a sibling or somebody in the immediate family, the other, and maybe grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle, whatever. Then the other 60% would be someone the child knows. So that could be the babysitter, could be the neighbor down the street who watches the child for half a day, the coach, the teacher at school, anybody who has access to the child. That's where the abuse is happening. I try to really point this out on all my shows because people just think child abuse, child abuse. It's like child abuse is happening where children are. So where are children? Well, they're either at home or they're at a babysitter's or daycare, or they're at a after school program, or they're in a sporting event, sporting like club or whatever. They might be in some sort of sports or after school activities, like they might be in band or some type of music, who knows? This is where children are being abused. So who's abusing them? People who get a hold of them. So, if you seriously do your background checks, make sure that anybody who has access to your child has a background check completed, and I'm talking one it's a special background check done for people who work with children, and they really go in and they do a more bigger search, a wider search to incorporate that, so that so that people don't slip through the cracks, right? Sadly enough, people do, but make sure that people are who they say they are, and make sure that they don't have any previous criminal offenses, for molesting children. We're talking anybody, coaches, daycare workers, teachers. Teachers molest children, and teachers. A lot of people don't realize how many teachers actually do sexually abuse children. It's when you actually look at the headlines, the reality of people that were convicted and found guilty, and it's not just women, and it's not just men. It's both, right? Convicted and found guilty, found guilty and convicted of child sexual abuse. There's a lot of teachers out there who have abused children sexually, and it's horrific to think that a teacher would do that. But hey, teachers are people too, and teachers, they're not, there's just no one is out of this whole thing. Anyone who chooses to abuse a child, that's a child abuser, right? So this is horrific, right? It's absolutely horrific. But people think that, it's only these people that would be lurking around in the shadows with dark trench coats and a black hat on, and you wouldn't be able to really see them. They'd be hiding in the shadows. And that's just not true. It could be the guy down the street, could be the lady at the store, anybody, right? And you see some of these headlines out here, you can tell that it just is anybody that abuses children sexually. It's horrific. They said it is a widespread misconception that, so 90% of child sexual victims know their abusers. Children are most often sexually abused by family members and close family friends, such as fathers, brothers, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, boyfriends, or single mothers, babysitters, etc. And that could include grandmothers, could include aunts, could include girl cousins. Women and girls are sexual abusers too, right? A lot of people just think it's the male gender because a lot of people have grown up watching in their own homes, maybe being abused by the father or being abused by a male in their home or someone in the family or close relative or something. So a lot of people have a misconception that it's only men that abuse, and that's just not true. Women do sexually abuse children too, and sadly enough. And it could be anybody, grandma, could be grandpa, could be aunt or uncle, could be just anybody. Could be a sibling, could be a sister, right? Could be a brother, right? I was sexually abused by my brother, so this happens to people. Sadly enough, 1 in 3 to 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused in some way under the age of 18. If you know me, then you know one. So that's how common it is, right? It's absolutely horrific. They said that according to the U.S. Department of Justice, the characteristics and behavioral indicators of a pedophile, also referred to as a serial child sexual abuser, include the following. And they list a whole bunch of stuff here. They say usually an adult male, but some women also sexually abuse children. Often a child molestation victim themselves. Number 3, seeks out children as the age group when they were victimized. Number 4, usually married and hardworking. Get this, usually married and hardworking. See, a lot of people just think that child sexual abusers are people on the street, who just living in a cardboard box who are wearing a dark trench coat, right? That's just not the case. Employed within a wide range of occupations, they found that doctors have sexually abused children. Many doctors, dentists, people who have access to children have been found guilty of sex crimes against children. Absolutely horrific. And they say here, number 6, usually well-liked and respected community members. Number 7, often well-educated and regular churchgoers. And a lot of abuse, sexual abuse going on within the churches of children. Absolutely horrific. That's been going on forever in the Catholic Church and every church. I wouldn't even just point the finger at the Catholic Church. I would say that it's just everywhere. Absolutely horrific. Number 8, relates better with children than adults. Number 9, some prefer boys, some prefer girls. Now, these are characteristics of pedophiles or child sexual abusers. Number 10, usually prefers a specific age group of children. Number 11, takes and collects photographs of victims while dressed, nude, or in sexual poses. Number 12, collects adult pornography. Number 13, seeks to lower inhibitions of potential victims. Number 14, regularly attends children's events in the community. Number 15, volunteers in youth organizations. Number 16, coaches children's sports, because this way they have access to children. See, child sexual predators and pedophiles, they're not stupid. They want to have easy access to a child. So they want to be able to. They don't want to get caught. See, so obviously they don't want to get caught and busted. So what they want to get a hold of a child who's vulnerable, or a child who doesn't have a lot of support at home and is easily manipulated, a child who has not been, sort of, I don't know, at the age appropriate levels shown that, they need to get help if somebody's trying to touch them in a way that makes them uncomfortable, or if someone's trying to take photos of them and asking them to do things that they, in their own mind, they question it. The child should know that they need to go get help from an adult, any adult around who can help them, and they need to tell you as a parent that, children need to know, that their body belongs to them. And the whole issue of good touch, bad touch, and stuff, I totally agree with that. I don't think parents should scare their children, and say, oh, and get their children all freaked out so that they don't ever want anybody to ever have anything to do with them, because it just shuts the child down. They don't trust anybody and they start freaking out. There's ways to handle it. I think the best idea would be to go get some help from some people that really know how to teach this stuff. And I know there's a group up here in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm in Calgary, Alberta. I'm in Canada, but I'm from the States, so I'm an American. I'm also Canadian, so I'm a dual citizen. And I lived for 30 years in the States. I love the States, and but I love Canada too. And Edmonton, Alberta is about 3 hours north of where I'm at. And Little Warriors, that's a great not-for-profit, and their fight is against child sexual abuse. And littlewarriors.ca, that's the website, littlewarriors.ca. And they have a lot of great information on there for parents on age-appropriate, when to begin addressing this stuff with your children so that you can keep your children safe, and all kinds of tips for parents on what to do to keep your children safe. So need any information about this. I really think they do a great job. Child Help, like any of these organizations, these big organizations, we have lots of information on our website as well. You can contact us as well. Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. Michigan, down in the state. Sandra Potter is the CEO and founder. And if you need any kind of information from us, we have lots and lots of great information as well on how to keep your children safe and how to protect your children. You just contact us at dreamcatchersforabusedchildren@gmail.com. You can contact us at our website, dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. You can contact me anytime. I'm the Canada. I can get information to you as well. So, you can contact any Dreamcatchers for Abused Children official volunteer, and they can help you to get some information if you do need information from us as well. So, because we are a primary prevention group, which we are out there in the public, doing a whole lot of advocacy to promote awareness and education regarding child abuse. So we are a 501c3 not-for-profit primary prevention group, right? Which is, primary prevention is the way to go. It is the number one way to stop child abuse. And if you check it out on any of the websites out there that talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention, well, primary prevention is the only type of prevention that actually tries to stop the abuse before it happens. Secondary prevention is to work with children who are at risk or who have been abused already, right? That's and the same with the tertiary prevention. There's three types, right? The first one, primary, that's what we do. And we're all about public education to try to stop abuse before it happens, because we don't want to see any more children being abused, right? So, if you want to help and you want to get involved with Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, just contact any one of us and we can get that information for you. But anyway, back to this article here. This is this is some good information for parents. A lot of people think, the child sexual predators, they could be living on, they're driving down the same streets that we're driving down, right? They work in the same offices and companies that we work in, right? People who are into child pornography, people who are into abusing children sexually. If they didn't come up to you and say, hey, hey, so did you know that I'm a child sexual predator? They're not going to come up to you and tell you that. You know what I mean? They're going to keep that as quiet as they can, because it's against the law, thank God. And so a lot of times, we're working with these people. We have no idea, no concept that they could have, 10,000 pornographic images on their computer, and they could be looking to get a hold of children and sexually use them, right? Because they wouldn't come up and tell you that. But it could be, child sexual predators don't just have a certain look. They don't look like these scary monsters walking around on the street. They're just people. Sadly enough, some would call them monsters. I do, but they're just people who are out there abusing children sexually. Right? This is horrific. It's got to stop. It has to stop. And for everybody who's out there screaming out about this and screaming out against child sexual abuse and child abuse, period, thank you so much. We need every voice. I tell you, I'm so hooked up with all these advocates and stuff because of what I do with Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, as well as my own stuff, right? Because I'm just out here trying to be as much of a voice as I can. I have so many people in my life right now who are advocates, fighting to stop child abuse. And there's so many groups. I mean, I could spend like a whole week just talking about all the groups that I know about, whether through Facebook and through Twitter and through MySpace. There's a lot of people out here speaking out against this. And, I know that most people who listen to my show probably would be some of those people. So, thank you so much for doing what you're doing, because it's a lot of work, and, a lot of people don't like to hear from us because it ruins their lunch and it ruins their day to have to hear the children are being abused, right? But if we don't talk about this and we don't start screaming out against this and continue to scream out against this, it's just going to be allowed to continue on, right? Absolutely horrific. So back to this article here on characteristics of a child sexual predator or pedophile, child sexual abuser. They quite often they work with children, so they volunteer in youth organizations, coaches, coaching children's sports, chaperones camp or overnight trips. This is another thing you got to be very careful about. If your children's going on an overnight trip, you need to know that the people who are going to be chaperoning your children and taking care of your children out there wherever they're going on this trip, that they have all been screened for and had background checks done. Because background checks, man, it is so important that you do background checks. And if you don't make sure and have proof that the people that are responsible for organizing the trip that your child's going on get proof that this has been done. Because some people will say, oh, yeah, we did all the background checks, but they didn't, right? Because they cost a few bucks. So they might not want to pitch out the money to get these background checks done, right? So, you make sure, right, do not allow your children to just go off with people. You can't do that. You never could. People have been sexually abusing children forever. Way back in the Roman days, we're talking people have been sexually abusing children since time began, right? And they will continue to do so until we can find a way to stop them, and also until we can educate parents enough that they realize that this is happening, and you do not want your child to become a victim of a child sexual predator. And so it's very important that people realize that you need to be your children's number one protector as a parent, and you need to make sure that everybody that comes in contact with them, if they're going to be looking after your child for half the day, you need to know who these people are. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you what, there are some sick individuals out there. Like I was saying when I first came on the show, I was almost knocked off with, kidnapped 5 times when I was a kid. And one time when I was really young, I was about 4 years old, and this man started walking off with me down the street as I was in the front yard not being supervised because my mother was my main abuser and did not care what I was doing outside. So this man started walking off with me, and before we even got down the block, he had his hands in my pants. I'm telling you, a neighbor actually I was wearing a dress, right? So this is absolutely ridiculous. So his neighbor actually caught him and was like, "You get it from her." He's like, "I'm not doing anything," and she's like, "You get off the street." Well, I don't think he reported it. See, this is back in 1969. People weren't all that smart back then about watching out for these types, right? So who knows how many children that person got away with molesting or abusing sexually, right? But I was just lucky that this neighbor was looking out for me, right? Really, really awesome, because, anybody else could have been like, oh, well, they wouldn't think anything about a child who was walking down the street with a man. This neighbor obviously didn't know who that guy was, but she knew who I was because I lived across the street from her, and, she probably caught a glimpse of this guy walking with me and was like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I would have been gone, right? So that was just one time out of 5 times, you know what I mean, where I was saved from potentially a deadly situation, right? Another time I was at a fair, and I was, I think I was about 12, 13 years old, and this guy he grabbed my arm, and he's like, come with me. And I was actually squirming to get away from him and freaking out at the same time because he was squeezing my arm. And he was walking really fast, and he's like, "Come on, come on!" And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, he's trying to walk me off into the back into a dark area." Right? It was a huge state fair, and So I saw this lady standing sort of close by, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna get help before I get taken off, you know. And so I said, Mom, and to this lady, and she clued in, and she's like, get away from my daughter. And this guy was like, I didn't even touch her. Of course, he had me by my arm, right? And as far as I can remember, we did not report that either. So who knows how many children were grabbed and nabbed by that guy? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? This is number 2. This happened to me 5 times. Yeah, let's get the picture here. 5 times. Your children are not safe. If you're a parent out there now, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm trying to be realistic. Your children are not safe. And, you know, if you have children, you know, even if they are protected and they do have the information, they're still not safe. And that's sad. And you really, I mean, and these were strangers. I was sexually abused by my brother. So, I mean, there you go. It would not only happen within my own family, but it could potentially happen outside the family. I could have been killed and kidnapped. Horrific, absolutely horrific. You do not want your child to have to go through that. You know what I mean? So get the information and realize that people within your home can abuse your child sexually, and people outside your home can abuse your child sexually. And you do not want your child to be a victim of child sexual abuse. So if you're a parent and you're listening to this, you can pretend this stuff doesn't happen all you want, but all it's going to do is get you in a lot of trouble. Getting the information and learning how to keep your child safe and what to do to just to even try to protect your children is the way to go. And the FBI and ICAC are out there trying to do this for you. But the thing is that the more information that the parents have, caregivers have, families have to keep themselves safe, the better, right? Because it is all about education, right? You can really learn to help protect yourself and save your life if you have a lot of it. If you get that information and get that education, you know what I mean? They also seek jobs where children are easily accessible. They offer babysitting services. You got to really be careful when somebody says, "Oh, I'll watch your children for free. I've got nothing better to do." Do you really know that person? You know, like you just have to know who people are that who are going to be looking after your children, no matter what age your child is. Whether they're a teenager, whether they're a preteen, whether they're just an older school age child, or a young baby, you need to know who these people are, right? Because lots of people will offer to babysit because they want to get a hold of your child, you bet. They seek jobs where children are easily accessible. They befriend parents, especially single mothers, to gain access to children. That's a huge issue. They participate in internet gaming with children. They join social networking websites such as MySpace, Facebook, and other social media, and they set up like fake profiles, and they say that they're kids or whatever, right? They set up all these fake profiles, and that's, it's so bad. They become foster parents, right? And not every foster parent is an abuser. That's a fact. There's good foster parents out there too, just like there's good parents, right? So they're just saying that sometimes child sexual predators and pedophiles and whatnot will become foster parents so that they can get a hold of children. And this is so sad. Oh my God. Children who already have been so, mistreated, maltreated, neglected, possibly abused in every way, and then to end up in foster care with foster parents who the only reason they took them on in the first place was to abuse them sexually. And see, the issue is I know people who this has happened to, and so this is not something that's just not common. It actually is somewhat common, and that's the sad part. But we know there's good foster parents out there too, right? So I'm not putting down. This is just this article trying to make people aware that that's what child sexual predators, pedophiles will do because they want to have easy access to a child, right? They seek job opportunities where children are easily accessible, right? So this particular article, again, just in case you want to go and review this is www.suite101.com/content/the-profile-of-a-pedophile A50767. And how child molesters lure children. They manipulate children, right? They're professional con artists. They manipulate children with various grooming methods in order to create a special bond of warmth and trust. And this may involve lavish attention and gifts, money, alcohol, or drugs, playful touching or tickling, all in an effort to create an atmosphere of secret keeping, right? So it's important to note that most victims of child sexual abuse do not tell they were sexually abused, even when directly asked by a parent or other authority figures. Quite often they will not disclose it, right? So we'll continue on with this next Tuesday night. I'll be back on with child abuse prevention, human rights abuse prevention is up to us next Tuesday night, same time. And then I'll be back on Saturday morning with one child abuse survivor to another. You can check my show page. I'm sort of switching things around, just only on Tuesdays and Thursdays now, just to take a break from March, because I'm just trying to get caught up and also trying to get some of my health back, right? So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. Do whatever you can to protect the children in your lives. Do whatever you can to protect other children, that you see. Be the eyes and ears for these children out here, and make sure that you are keeping an eyeball peeled for children around you, right? They certainly do need every bit of help they can get, right? Have a great night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.